G'day guys and welcome to the Faceless Photographer. Today I'm going to do an introduction into food photography and I'm going to show you a basic setup as well as run you through lighting, composition and styling. So to get your workspace set up, you have to know the number one rule about lighting and food photography, and this is that you use a natural source of light, so basically daylight. What you need to do is you need to push your workbench, which just happens to be a coffee table for me, right up against a glass window or a glass door. Now the next part of that rule is that the source of your light must come from behind the food. So in this case, the food will sit here on the coffee table and my natural lighting will come in from behind it. But at the same time, we don't want very harsh shadows. So what we have to do is we need to diffuse the lighting. Now professionals in this case would use a light box, but a cheap alternative for food bloggers is to cut out a piece of baking paper, as I have done, and just stick it up on the glass behind the food. Now that that's set up, you've basically taken care of the lighting of your photo. Now that's 1/3 of the way in. The next 2/3 are the composition and the styling. So when it comes to styling, you want to look at different alternatives, see what you have at home. I personally don't spend too much on purchasing items to style my food. I have some examples of things that I do use, however. So the first item is a basket. Putting something like this in the background just adds a bit of texture to your image. The other thing I also like to use is just some scrap material, and I bought this from like a reverse garbage place. It was just $1. Also, I like to use a bit of twine or string. This could be paper string or some light rope or something like that. So another good idea of something you can use for your food styling is just some dried herbs. Here I have rosemary, which is still on its twig, and it just looks lovely in the background. Finally, I just use whatever I have in my kitchen. Sometimes it's just a simple cake plate or a baking tray or my chopping board. And if I'm baking something, I like to use cocoa or flour just to add a bit of contextual styling. So these are just some styling ideas for you guys, and you can go as creative as you like, but just remember at the end of the day, it's the food that's in your photo that actually has to shine. So once you've played around with your styling, that's 2/3 of your food photo ready. The next thing that you have to look at is your composition. So I'm going to go ahead and set myself up something really basic so that we can have a look at that. So I've done a really basic styling setup here on just a bunch of oranges for the purpose of this video. And I'm going to go ahead and take 3 different shots. And these shots will correlate with the 3 angles that we like to use in food photography the most. So the first angle is like a 90-degree angle. It's a top down bird's eye view of the oranges. The next one is a 45-degree angle of the oranges, and the third angle that we're going to look at that we're going to take a photo of is a 0-degree angle. So we're going to be in line and straight ahead with the oranges. So one last thing I'm going to point out with regards to composition before I take these photos is to use the rule of thirds. And this rule is a rule that is applied in photography in general. And as you can see here on my camera, I've brought up a grid to show me where my thirds are. And the point is just to put something interesting where these thirds meet. So at that point, that point, that point, or that point. If you can maybe get an orange or part of the basket or one of the oranges that are in the basket on those points, that would be lovely. Okay, so I've taken my 3 photos and I have not edited them at all. I was using the flash off mode because remember we must use natural lighting only. So really I was just pointing the camera at the oranges from a 90-degree, 45-degree and 0-degree angle, and I just hit the shutter button and this was the result. So this includes my introduction into food photography, but I will show you one last thing. I'm going to compare these 2 photos for you, which are just 2 photos of cookies which I took a while back, to compare what an image looks like when the food is backlit, so it means the source of the light is coming from behind the food, as opposed to the source of the light coming from the same direction as the camera. And as you can see, when the light source is from behind the food, it adds highlights into the food, which makes it look delicious and rule-worthy. I hope you guys have found this video beneficial. Please thumbs up, comment and subscribe.